listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net, and can also be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring Standard Issue. One of the many advantages gained from growing up without protection or guidance was in learning to find and rely on my own inner knowing. I've always had a sense of divine design taking care of me as long as I remained in the flow. Being kinesthetic, the information would come first as a body sensation that indicated when things were on or off with the way life worked. It wasn't long before I noticed that if things were off and I didn't course correct, it would not go well for me. On the other hand, when things were on and I stayed the course, life became charmed with unusual synchronicities and provisions that effortlessly led me to the situations I needed in order to thrive. For the most part, I've lived this way, and it's never let me down, though I must say I've let myself down more times than I can count. With this flawless guidance as standard issue, why was I led astray? Anytime I listened to others without consulting how I felt about what they were saying, I ended up taking a left turn to my detriment. It's not that most external advice was not well intended. It was just coming from logic and personal judgment on how I should live. This, by its very nature, is doomed to failure, as ultimately the only one equipped to discern how to live life is the person living it. Early on, I was very vulnerable to people who were confident in their viewpoint. As a young person, I really did want to find someone I could trust to look out for me. Alas, it was not to be. I have always been unique. What worked well for others was often a disaster for me. I've discovered that true wisdom comes through listening to our inner voice or gut instincts first, following our instinctual promptings, and later engaging the mind to figure out what was going on. Anytime I try to lead with the mind to the exclusion of my inner knowing, well, the best laid plans of mice and men and all that. The value of working out how things function after the fact is that by first following our gut, eventually one can learn to engage instinct, intellect, and heart in decision-making. The good Lord provided us with all three for a reason. Identifying our heart's desire is a very important piece of the equation. By following true desire, we're led on our life's path rather than conforming to someone else's. Another vital concept is not to judge against what comes our way, but rather discern if it aligns with our intended path and act accordingly. So often we judge something as bad and feel victimized by it, rather than recognizing an opportunity to course correct in order to stay on track with our intent. For example, if someone in our world betrays us or lets us down, it's easy to lose faith, looking for what we've done wrong to deserve such treatment. Yet the true message may be, we're doing everything right. This person simply doesn't belong in the equation anymore. Their chosen path and intent is leading them somewhere else. To continue a close association could be detrimental to both parties. The key to living a charmed life is threefold. First, we decide what brings us joy. What do we really want? Rather than coming from created solutions to imaginary problems, we must access the deepest part of our heart. We came in with the chosen path for this lifetime planted in our heart. We just need to unearth it and make it our intent, which brings us to the next step, clear intent. If we're clear on what we're intending, we can run all of our experiences through the following litmus test. Does this serve my intent? And if so, how do I take advantage of it? How do I really feel about this? If the circumstances doesn't feel right, we're sure we're coming from the perception rather than triggered by past experiences, the opportunity may not be right for our chosen path at this time. Life will direct us, but we must be in the driver's seat. Know ourselves, find our true desire, and set clear intent, then follow our internal promptings. If we passively wait for something to happen, we'll be waiting a long, long time. Our guest this hour, Zen Cryar DeBrücke, is the author of Your Inner GPS. Follow your internal guidance to optimal health, happiness, and satisfaction. She's an internationally renowned teacher, speaker, and coach whose programs have helped people all over the world transform their personal lives for the better. After this commercial break, I'll introduce Zen and research her views on how to access and use your inner guidance. Could be useful, so don't go away. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. Linnea Starr began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Starr does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you are able to give factual information and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Starr does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Starr or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Zen Cryar DeBrücke, author of Your Inner Guidance GPS, Follow Your Internal Guidance to Optimum Health, Happiness, and Satisfaction. Visit her online at www.zeninAMOMENT.com. ZenInAMoment.com. Thank you, Zen, for joining us on The Science of Magic.
Hi, thank you for having me. I absolutely adore your name.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, my mother gave me that
Awesome.
thing.
Yeah.
I got stuck with that early on.
Fabulous.
I understand you developed the inner GPS. What prompted you to do so?
Well, when I was about 23 years old, which is actually like 93, a long time ago, I began to realize that I had this feeling in my body right before I was about to do something that was going to disrupt my life. I would feel sick to my stomach in this tight area of my solar plexus. I'd have a lump in my throat. Right before I'd say something to a boss that I shouldn't say, or break up with someone, or do something, and I realized it was like a self-sabotage kind of thing that I was doing, and yet I couldn't find a way to not have it go wrong, no matter how much I tried speaking a different way, or using a different tone, or taking time to wait before I acted, or all kinds of little things I tried. It didn't work, and all of a sudden, I was praying about finding a solution, and this cassette tape from Abraham Hicks showed up. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Yeah.
I am, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I really loved the law of attraction information in there, but what really got me was at that time she was talking about an internal guidance system, which is why I call it that, to honor her, and how we have a constriction in our body when our thoughts are out of alignment and taking us away from what's going to bring us joy and happiness and success. And that we have an opening, a relaxed sensation when we're moving towards what's going to create happiness and success and is in alignment with our purpose and path. And it hit me. I got it. It was like this download came that was so powerful about how I couldn't do anything different because my thoughts were not true. They were not going to carry me to success no matter how much I worked from the closing. And I began at that point taking my life into a direction of studying this and trying to find a solution, and that's how it started. That was the seed.
So what exactly is an internal guidance? Where do you think it comes from?
Well, I believe every human, from what I've found, everyone has it, has a factory-installed guidance system that's connected to a divine source of energy, and no matter what that divinity is. For atheists, they call it kind of an environmental instinct, nature, right, all the way through to God. Higher self, prana. I don't know what to call it. I think it's all the same thing as what I've discovered in the past 23 years, but it shows up different based on different personality types and what they need in order to connect. And it is literally a part of our being that's connected to divine wisdom, that's in tune to our personal life story and path. Each person gets different information based on what their needs are, based on what their goal, their destiny. I love the 3 points that you made earlier in the show as I was listening. It's just so beautifully perfect. Find out what you want, and then intention, and that's exactly the way that the internal guidance system works. Except it's helping us craft what our mind is producing, so that we can create the reality that's highest for us.
As I hear you talking, I'm pretty earth-based, and I'm around animals, wild and domestic, all the time, and I see them operating that way. So how does that differ, for instinct, from this?
I think that they already are. I think so here's my personal opinion of what's going on down here on this planet. I agree with you. I think all of nature is already operating from this internal guidance system. Whales migrate, animals run from tsunamis even, bees, everything is kind of already following this internal expression of opening and closing. And we disconnected from that many thousands of years ago in order for us to be able to explore and develop our mind and our capacity for self-recognition and creation. And now we've gotten to a place, and if you look at all of science and biology and math and medical, all of these things are converging into a place where we are starting to recognize our God energy within each of us. And we're about to have an awakening. And in that, what's necessary in that awakening is transitioning back into following our internal guidance system so that we come back into alignment with all that is on this planet as far as nature goes. And that's what this is really a process of, and why it's happening now.
So you see that awakening is happening now? Why now?
There's a consciousness that's being discovered and developed, and people are becoming interested in that. It's like God becoming aware of itself through us. And that awareness isn't going to be coming through the mind. The mind is simply a tool to discover that awareness, and the internal guidance system piece is that place where we will then be led from. And it's like the way that I kind of, and this is all my own supposition, right, of what I believe is going on, but I think that if we had stayed connected to the internal guidance system, it feels so good to know how to stay in the opening and the flow, and to use your mind as a creative tool. I don't think we would have ever decided to discover, to go on the path and purpose of discovering and developing our mental capacity to become aware, to become so self-aware and creative. I think we would have just stayed in the flow like all of nature is. It feels good. And you have such a deep sense of belonging and a comfortable place within your soul of knowing that you're never alone, and there's something that's paying attention to your every thought, not from a judgmental place, but from a place of truly loving and wanting you to experience the best that's possible for you. I don't think we would have done that, and we chose to disconnect so that we could really come back into that place from a place of choice.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
Esoteric.
No, that's fine. I've heard a lot of people saying that during these times, basically our minds are really changing format. Is this in alignment with what you're saying here?
Yes. In fact, like I said, I've been researching this for 23 years and then also teaching for 15. And here's the coolest thing. In the last 3 years, I have been talking to many neuroscientists about this work and about brain plasticity, and how we can even now, scientists and researchers from multiple places on the planet are discovering that we can change our DNA with our thoughts. And I think that this system, and several people believe it too, as you learn to use it throughout your daily life, it's not a meditation you sit down and do. It's something that you do as you're moving through life. Your thoughts are constantly being monitored, and you're making choices into the opening. And when you make your choices into the opening, a new neural pathway is being built.
So
and that
tell me,
pathway allows the old one that doesn't work to fall away, to fade.
Tell me what you mean by choices into the opening.
So the internal guidance system resides in the body. It shows up in 3 particular areas: the throat, you'll feel a lump in your throat or a closing; the chest, which feels a tight sensation, which we've mostly labeled anxiety, stress, worry, overwhelm, frustration; and then there's a tight sickness feeling or a churning that's in the solar plex area, right where the rib cages come together. Those are the 3 areas of guidance. And up until now, like I said, we have labeled what I call closing, just to give it a word, stress, worry, fear, anxiety, frustration, overwhelm. Anytime a person is feeling that in their lives, that means what they're thinking is not true and not going to happen. And when those areas open up, which you can physically feel this is happening every day throughout our days as we're thinking, you feel a release, an ease, as if you can breathe more deeply. There's actually like an expansion that feels euphoric. There's also a neutral, which is just where your central area is just calm and centered. Most people, when they do the practices, they just are living from the neutral until they get some guidance on what they're thinking into the open ear closing, but there's this nice centered, confident center. And so I call that opening. And what happens is most of us are programmed between the ages of 0 and all of us are programmed, I should say, between the ages of 0 and 7 by our parents and our environment as to what is reality, what's the truth. Even so much so as our emotions are programmed. Oh, when somebody's late, you get angry with them. It may not bother you at all that someone's late, but that's how your mother reacted, and so that's how you end up reacting. And all of this programming isn't necessarily real time. We are really being called to discern things real time now because our universe is moving so fast. And the old paradigm, the old things that we believe about our beauty, our worth, what is love, what our contribution is on the planet, what's possible on the planet as far as solutions go, all of these different things need to be constantly updated as we move forward. And so, yeah, go ahead.
As I'm listening to you, it sounds like this is very body-centered. And how important is the ability to be physically present when attempting to access your internal guidance? Because it occurs to me that most of us have forgotten how to be physically present.
Absolutely, especially because the sensations of the IGS when they're closed are so uncomfortable. Many people do check out of their bodies because they don't have another way to deal with it. The very first thing that I work with students on is dropping back into the body through a listening practice that you can do on the go. It's a set point with which to be able to work with your IGS. You can happen in an instant in a boardroom or in a meeting or in a fight with a spouse, or a child. You stop and you drop into your body first and then pay attention and witnessing the thoughts and getting guidance from your IGS. So it is very body-centric.
One thing that I struggle with, Zen, is I'm very empathic. And so I have to be able to discern what information I'm getting through my body is mine and what might be coming from someone else. Do you deal with this as well?
Absolutely. In fact, I have many empaths because, of course, this is a kinesthetic, somatic experience, so empaths are attracted to it. I teach them how to use their internal guidance system to discover what's theirs. You can literally sit and feel an emotion and say, ooh, is this that I'm feeling mine? Open, closed, or neutral? Ooh, I closed. Okay, this is somebody else's that's near me. Open. Even to if you want, you can even do it to the point of finding out who it is and if this is something that you need that is your gift is needed in order to support them. Or is this just something that's just kind of in the atmosphere that you can walk away from? And then, of course, I teach them how to create a bubble, so to speak, with which once they know it's not theirs, they can eliminate it from their environment.
Right. So once they know it's, just because you hear the traffic doesn't mean you have to direct it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, really important.
Yeah. So you're actually using your inner guidance system to find out what your inner guidance system is getting from you and what it's getting from other.
Yes, exactly. In fact, a lot of people ask me what the difference between intuition and your internal guidance, and is it the same thing? And they're not the same thing. Your intuition can come in many different ways, kinetic, audio, visual, various things, and each person has a different gift, and they're not necessarily adept at all of them, but the IGS works the same in every single person. And so what I recommend is you can use this internal guidance system to discover whether the information that you're getting is accurate and whether or not it's something what you need to be doing with it and where your mind takes off. You seem like a very intuitive person to me. And there's a place which we get information, and maybe you'll relate to this, and then our mind takes over and makes up a story about what it means. And there's a breaking point of accuracy in that moment. And you can use your IGS to unravel that, to discover, how to hone in on the accuracy of your intuitive gifts.
Fantastic. We're going to have to take a break and pick up with this on the other side. Zen and I will return to our discussion after this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Previous broadcasts of thought-provoking episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. We will be back, so don't you go away.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money in abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Zen Cryar DeBrücke, the author of Your Inner GPS. Follow your internal guidance to optimal health, happiness, and satisfaction. Visit her online at www.zeninamomement.com, zeninamomement.com. Zen, we were talking about how you can use your inner guidance system to actually discern what is coming from your intuition and where your mind is taking a left turn. And, I see how sometimes are you familiar with muscle testing? And is this similar?
Yeah, it is. It actually is very similar to muscle testing, except it's not something you have to stop and do. It's something that as you're just going through life, it kind of looks like I'm walking along, and all of a sudden you go, ooh, that was a closing, because most of us don't even pay attention to what our mind is doing. The number one thing when people first come to study this work is they're like, okay, I got the closing, but I have no idea what I was just thinking. So we work on what was I just thinking practice. But so you're walking along and you're just kind of enjoying life. You can become more and more present, and all of a sudden you'll feel a closing sensation. And in that closing sensation, there was a thought that was out of alignment that needs to be auto-corrected or corrected by you. So you go, what was that? Oh, I was thinking about how I need to do my taxes this week. I closed. I don't need to do my taxes this week. Ooh, I opened. Okay, I'm going to put that off till next week, because sometimes we don't have time to do everything, very often, and we try to cram stuff in, which actually deters from our happiness and success, or there's something that's missing. I had that happen twice, where there was a big thing that I was missing, and I would have had to go back and redo my taxes.
Yikes.
That kind of a thing. And the IGS has this wisdom. It knows things that you don't know. And by following it, you get to tap into those.
One thing that I've noticed, of course, in my practice, which is shamanism, that so often it's really difficult to tell what's clear and present and what's coming from triggers from past wounding. Can you be getting a trigger and have your internal guidance go off? And how do you tell the difference?
Oh, yes. Well, there is no difference. See, part of its job is to update all of the things that are not accurate for you anymore, that were programmed between 0 and 7. So an example of this was my father and I, we had really, really challenging life when I was earlier, very painful for both of us. I believed he didn't love me, didn't care about me, loved my brother more, didn't even really like me. And I was driving up to his house on Christmas one time and really miserable about going, but kind of feeling obligation that I needed to, and thinking about all the pain of him not liking me, and I realized suddenly I was closed, which means what I'm thinking is not true. So I thought, wow, okay, let's see what is true. And it took me a little bit because of the programming. I had a lot, hundreds of thousands, I would imagine, not quite, but of experience where it was really proven that my dad didn't like me and didn't want me and didn't love me and loved my brother more. I could prove it. But the thought came in finally when I was exploring what that was. He didn't know how to be a dad to a girl. It was completely different for him and my brother. And when I suddenly realized that he'd been struggling his whole life to get it right, and it was not, and it was becoming more painful, which isolated us more from each other, I really realized I couldn't even hold the old thoughts anymore that he didn't love me, because he'd kept trying. I could see it. What he needed was more information on how to be a great dad to a girl. And I went on my little dad training program, and we shifted our relationship, and compassion came in and all of this. And so that would be a trigger. Like, I couldn't even go to his house and be there for more than 20 or 30 minutes without bursting into tears about something he said. It was so awful for both of us,
Yeah.
And I was misreading things. And I wasn't, instead of going, hey, Dad, talking about how it looks like I've gained some weight is probably not a good idea. You know that about Mom, but, let's not do that, okay? Or not liking my haircut. Let's not talk about that. It's really good. Just let's not mention my appearance, okay? I'll just cry. So, yeah, so that is just one example. And I have so many that thousands of students have used to enhance their parenting, their relationships with their significant others, their work relationships. All those triggers, they get removed. But the key is it pops up as an alarm bell with this little closing signal that comes in where you can see it in the moment, what's true and what's not true.
Interesting. Again, in shamanic practices, there's these 3 power centers in the body. And I'm finding as you're talking that your inner guidance system actually has a location in each place. It's the head, the heart area, and the gut. So I wonder how that relates. What are we looking at there? Is it the intellect, the heart, and the intuition? What do you think we're looking at there?
Well, actually, it's not quite the head; it's the throat. So
Mm-hmm.
it's between the throat and the solar plexus. Head's left out as far as sensation goes.
Okay.
And when the throat closes, when there's a lump in the throat, what that means is that the thoughts you're having you're undermining your own success, your own value. I'm not good enough. I'm stupid. They don't love me. I'll never get it right. Those are the kinds of thoughts that are going on, and they're not true in that moment, and they're undermining. You're out of alignment with what's going to bring you the greatest success and happiness. In the chest area, it is real-time information. So, like, should I go to the post office? Closed. Or it's time to call this person. Open. Throughout your day, you get sensations there. That's where the tax information would show up. It's real-time information that you're getting. And then in the solar plex area, it's a belief system. So it'll show up as a constant tightening or churning if there's a theme of thought that you're buying into or you are reproducing that's out of alignment, and it's coloring the way you're thinking of everything. So I would get that feeling whenever I would think about my dad, because there was a belief system that was out of alignment. So that would be an example. And we have this, and that'll show up anytime there's a big body of thought that your IGS is asking you to shift, to look at. What's this theme to help you find the thoughts that are going to be opening?
Got it. Okay, so I think I've got this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. So basically, you're using those 3 trigger points in the body, and then you're cross-referencing what you're thinking at the time when one of them opens or closes to discern what is or is not aligned with your purpose versus what you think you might need to be doing.
Exactly. Exactly it.
Got it. Okay. Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yes.
And that's how you can tell what it's saying. Is that correct? Is by cross-referencing?
Yes, exactly. That's what it's saying. And as you begin to practice using this, what happens is, and I recommend, really taking on practices like in the book, for you to, because you want to come from your IGS, not from your mind. And what happens is your life becomes incredibly more efficient, happy, joyous. The worries that you have, the stresses that you have, they fall away because the truth of what really is coming is there. I mean, how many times have you worried about something that didn't happen?
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah, you spend more time doing that than living.
Exactly. All those thoughts that don't serve you. It's like, I love the question, who would I be without these thoughts? And you drop into that for a moment, right? And it's like, whoa, well, I'd be happy right now. And it's like, exactly, let's just go there. And the IGS helps you do that.
Okay, so I've got a question here. So what if you're dealing with a medical issue that you know very little about? How can you responsibly decide what to do using this system?
So there's a counterintuitive experience here. Most people think that when they think of an unpleasant thought, they're going to feel the tightening. If you have an unpleasant thought like, I have cancer, or I am really sick, it will open you if it's true.
Ooh. That's counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is counterintuitive. So that's the first thing to know. But if you talk to people who've had that experience, oh God, I think I have cancer, and they get this settled discernment, open feeling, they call the doctor. Or they don't, because they just know they're not wanting to go through that process, and they just, I've had people say, why didn't you go to the doctor sooner? You know what? This isn't something I wanted to fight. Okay, they were very open that wasn't what they wanted to do. So first of all, don't buy into the closing sensations of stress and worry around your health. This is a really good practice for people who are hypochondriacs because they're like, oh my gosh, I've got throat cancer. Oh, I'm closed. I don't have throat cancer. Open. Okay, I'll let that go. But they can't help themselves because somewhere along the line in their childhood they picked up hypochondria,
right?
Stressing and worrying about their health. So what they're doing is in that moment, they're reprogramming and moving the hypochondriac belief system and thought out of their mind. Over a period of time, they'll just stop having those thoughts because they're reprogramming them as they go. But if you get the opening, then the next step is to check in. Is it, I need to go to the doctor, and most people open. But they don't come at it from a place of stress and worry. They have a deep sense of peace and opening. And I think that's the difference when we're working with illness, is being able to stay in that opening place as you're making decisions, and that's the responsible way to handle the illness. Linked to that, which I think is really important, is that stress is one of the top 5 things in the leading causes of of disease-related death, at least in the United States. And I think it's what we're discovering in energy medicine is that in the closing, there's a life force energy that's being shut down. My belief is it's happening to slow down our creative power in creating something we don't want. And when you're open, there's more life force energy flowing through the body. They can measure this. This is a measurable effect. There's more life force energy moving through the body, and you have greater opportunity for health in your body being open. So in managing an illness like that, it's very important. It's very important for all of us, but in particular when you're ill, to move your thoughts into the opening to give your body as much opportunity to heal using that energy.
So what I'm hearing you say is that one of the major problems in our health and well-being is living a lie, where our thoughts and our direction don't add up.
Yes.
That's amazing. So we're in disagreement with ourselves, and that closes everything down. Life force doesn't flow, and we start to fail.
Yes, over time, of course, but yes,
Yeah.
It does. I'm going to be working on a research project where we're going to be measuring cortisol levels in people's bodies over a period of a few weeks using the internal guidance system. Because even when people feel calm, their cortisol levels stay high, and I believe it's because there's still an undercurrent of stress occurring that they're unaware of, like a fish in water or a frog in a boiling pot. And
Right.
we're going to try and see if we can get people's cortisol levels down by just having them do this practice and measure it.
That's amazing. I've got about 1 minute left. Would you mind telling us, is this subject to misinterpretation, and how do you work around that?
It is. It can be if you don't know how. Like I said, it's counterintuitive. So often in the beginning, people say, "Oh, I got a bad feeling about that person," and I'm like, "No, the thoughts you're having about that person are inaccurate." Oh, it's not a bad guy, and I'm like, "Yes, they probably remind you of someone else that you already have judgment, that you're even completely unaware of, and what you're thinking about that person in the moment is closing you, which means what you're thinking is not true." So it's not subject to misinterpretation when you understand how it works. But initially, in the beginning, it takes some coaching and some work on the practices, because I teach practices to alleviate that miscommunication, misinterpretation. So that way you get it. It's like, at first, it's hard to really believe that a closing sensation means that what you're thinking is not true. We're so aligned with what I think is always true.
Of course it is.
Of course, it's my brain. My brain is smart.
It's number one, right?
Exactly, and that's one of the things that comes that you move away from is realizing that your mind isn't always accurate. It isn't who you are.
It's not the end all, no. We're going to have to pick up again on the other side. Time is going so fast, Zen.
Sure.
Zen and I will be back on the flip side of this commercial break. You're listening to The Science of Magic on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. You can always listen to previous transformative broadcasts on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham.
Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back. He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle, reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement. These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston. From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour is Zen Cryar DeBrücke, there we go, the author of Your Inner GPS. Follow your internal guidance to optimal health, happiness, and satisfaction. Visit her online, www.zeninAmoment.com. I was thinking it'd be fun to talk about the rewiring of the brain. In shamanic practices, we can make a change at the spiritual level or the physical level, but in order to live our lives in a different way, we have to rewire actually the knee-jerk reactions or the burnt pathways in the brain itself. And it sounds like this works in that arena. Would you talk to that?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. It actually does work in that. What they're discovering is that you can use the nervous system of your body, which is what the internal guidance system is using for guidance, to rewire the neural pathways in your brain. So an example of that would be in the thought that I had with my dad doesn't know how to parent a girl, to be a dad to a girl. That new thought opened me. It opened and expanded my nervous system, which started a brand new neural pathway. And then the old neural pathway, all the old memories and belief systems, they begin to fade, and the new one begins to flourish. As I begin to step forward into creating that life, that new way of being with my dad, that neural pathway flourishes. So literally, as you're going through your life, and you'll feel a closing, which means the thought's out of alignment, not true, not going to happen, and you pivot to the opening thought, and you begin following the opening thought, the old neural pathways that don't serve you dry up. They fade away, and the new ones that are leading towards your greatest happiness and success are being reprogrammed. So you can literally move through your life reprogramming your mind on a daily basis. It's extraordinary when you think about it.
It is. I talk about power. But doesn't it take a lot of, at first, consciousness? In other words, that's the way I used to do it. This is the way I can do it. Which do I want to choose? Which is the opening and which is the closing? Or does it just happen?
It just happens. The hardest part of this is learning to do it, because most people try to figure it out with their mind, and that's not the way to do it. Quite honestly, you'll get all confused. It took me 8 years on my own of constant practice to figure out this system. So you do need to use some practices. Otherwise, it's not intuitive, as intuitive and easy as you'd think, not because the system isn't, but because our minds are so crazy. And, it's like being a fish in water. That's why people have an issue being present all the time. The mind just keeps hijacking them away from that. So the thing is, though, is that our unconscious decisions are made instantly, and then our mind begins to actually try to create a story as to why. So really, even when we're trying to say, I'm going to have the cookie, I'm not going to have the cookie, we've already decided we're having the cookie, right? And they've proven that we only have a certain number of choices in a day before our choices run out, and that underlying thing that's already made the decision takes over. So if you make a lot of decisions by 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and then the cookie comes, that underlying moment, that underlying instinct takes over, and you have the cookie. It doesn't matter how much willpower you think you have. Well, this operates on a level where your nervous system is in the reprogramming of the brain. Your nervous system decides it doesn't want the cookie. So there actually isn't a conversation going back and forth. And if the mind does throw up, you want the cookie, there's a place where you're like, there's literally a deep internal, it's not almost subconscious, but not quite, that goes, nah, I don't want that. That's not even a conversation I'm going to be in. And so that's what happened. So even if my dad would say something that would hurt me after I had that amazing opening, I would have a moment of, ooh, and then it's like, no, that's not what he meant. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. And you just don't go there. And it's like this natural reprogramming. It just completely changes the way you do life. It's extraordinary.
It is that moment of ooh, though. We do have that moment of ooh, and then the new programming can set in. Is that correct?
Yeah. So
and then that goes away.
Yes, and the new moment of ooh is closing, and so you can't believe it.
There you go.
Does that make sense? So you go, I'm close that he just lashed out at me.
So basically, what's reprogramming you is your ability to listen to your body and respond accordingly.
Yes, change in pivoting your thoughts. And what people need to learn most is all the practices and ways of pivoting your thoughts so that you have tools in your toolbox to do it effortlessly.
I understand that you have a little exercise that you give away for free on your website that'll help people get started. Is that correct?
Yes. So right on the homepage of ZenInAMoment.com is a video. It's about 4 minutes long, and I walk you through feeling this exercise for yourself, feeling your internal guidance system. You'll have it takes about 2 minutes, and you'll have an instant reaction that you can feel, and you'll say, oh, I've been feeling this. I can't believe this. That worked. And then I have a 5-video series that's a gift. It's called Jumpstart Your Inner GPS, and you sign up for it, and we deliver a 3-minute video each day for 5 days, and it actually gives you something to do in your life so that you can start feeling it and using it and seeing how it works. And you can get started using it right away. Just sign up, and you'll get the first video within 30 seconds. You'll be all using your IPS.
Beautiful provisions, and thanks for providing that. How do you advise people on obtaining the self-confidence to be guided from within rather than from without? I mean, we've spent our whole life being conditioned to do what the outside world tells us.
That is a really great question. It is the biggest thing I've found is it is about creating trust, and you create trust in little steps. And so even with just the 5-video series, the very first video, the whole thing is around beginning a trust. And over time, you begin to realize that it's always correct. It always has your best interest at heart. It also has the best interest of everyone around you. It doesn't give you guidance that's going to be detrimental to anyone else, which is amazing. And that trust gets built to it. And when you don't follow it, things don't go well. So you just realize it's like, I don't even need to know why I'm closing. I'm just not going to go there. It doesn't work out. I close it going to the post office. If I go, there'll be 37 people in line. You can
plan on it. Exactly. Which brings me to my next question. How does synchronicity play in with inner guidance?
inner guidance creates synchronicity. It's our mind that takes us away from being synchronous with the world around us. In fact, what I like to say is synchronicity and miracles are the norm. Those are the norm. They become so commonplace that, of course, so-and-so happens to be in the coffee shop and you just needed to talk to them to make a decision in 15 minutes about X, and they're standing in front of you. It's like you don't even bat an eye anymore when these things happen, because they happen so often it becomes the norm. And if you really look into nature, like we talked about earlier with animals, magic and miracles and synchronicity are the norm in nature. And that's what we're being called back into. So they're exquisitely linked together, following your IGS and synchronicity.
So you can use this to kind of like omenology as well. Is that correct?
I don't know what omenology is.
Okay, so in other words, you can listen to your inner guidance system, watch what's going on in the world, and predict what's going to come down the pike.
Yes, you can to some extent, as long as what's coming down the pike is something that your mind can comprehend. You can't comprehend something that you have no awareness of.
Right, right. How important is our personal intent and being conscious of it in this operation here?
Well, there's two things. One is your personal intent gets cleaned up, because any personal intent that's out of alignment with your purpose, like I need to go to college to have a good job, but if you close at going to college, then that's not your path. So any personal intent that's false begins to be peeled away like an onion. And then the other thing is there's the free will aspect of choosing to follow the IGS. And I really do believe this comes down to the actual definition of free will in our wisdom text. There are times when people don't want to ask their internal guidance system because they don't want the answer. Should I get divorced or should I not? I'm not going to ask that. I'm not ready for that answer right now. Or they want something. Another good example, I want to date this person even though it's not working out. I'm totally attracted to them. The IGS closes at it, but they do it anyways. And eventually it just gets to a place where it's like, this is too exhausting. And free will becomes easier, and the choices to remain in the opening remain easier. So those are the two ways that I would say personal intent play into this. Does that help?
That helps a lot, yeah.
Defined. Okay, good.
Before we run out of time, where can people find your book?
It is on Amazon and in bookstores. It's called Your Inner GPS. And in it, there are 20 practices, like I talked about, specific ways to use your IGS so you don't get confused. And I've created the easiest, most seamless way for you to get in touch with this without hiccups. And those are in the book.
Fantastic. It sounds like a beautiful provision. And, you know, when we're looking at the bottom line of what we've been talking about here throughout this episode, it seems like any place that we're lying to ourselves, even when we think we set our intent against something that's true, but rather a created solution, we're creating stress in our lives and we're ignoring our inner guidance system. Is this kind of what you're seeing here?
Absolutely. It's about reconfiguring our definitions of stress, worry, fear, frustration. Those are closing. And in just really coming into awareness that I'm closed when I feel that way, you already begin discovering the alignment to the opening.
Wow, it's amazing. So just follow the openings, huh?
Yes. And get the Inner GPS book.
It's been wonderful having you on your show and on our show, and thank you so much for developing this amazing system.
Thank you for having me. I just love your interview style. You're wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our guest this hour has been Zen Cryar DeBrücke, the author of Your Inner GPS. Follow your internal guidance system to optimum health, happiness, and satisfaction. This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge and comforted with love as you follow your internal guidance system.
One people, one nation, searching through the night. One people, one nation, searching for